Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Warrior Mat Talk. I am your host, Riley McClurg. Really excited to be here with you today for episode 2 because we have an awesome guest coming your way straight out of the great state of Illinois. We have Jordan Blanton joining us. If you don't know much about Jordan, Jordan is a 3-time state champion with a 152-1 record in high school in the state of Illinois. Jordan also went on and wrestled at the University of Illinois and was a 3-time NCAA Division I All-American. After his time at Illinois came to an end, Jordan also did a little bit of competing at the senior level for the Titan Mercury Wrestling Club. And Jordan has also made a few stops coaching at a couple of RTCs across the country as well. On top of Jordan's success on the mat, Jordan also has a lot of experience and exposure to the academy and RTC scene across the country and especially in his state of Illinois. So I'm really excited for Jordan to join us today and share his outlook on different parts of the sport. But hey, before we get to the good stuff and getting to meet with Jordan, let's take a listen from our title sponsor hailing from Clayton, Indiana, Freegee and Freegee Auctions and Marketing. All right, and it's my pleasure to introduce our guest for our episode 2 of the Warrior Mat Talk. I've got the Jordan Blanton to join us here straight from his home. And is it Richmond, Illinois, Jordan?
Yep, Spring Grove.
Spring Grove, man. Well, for those, I'm just going to give people a little background and of what Jordan Blanton is, and Jordan Blanton, to me, I think this is the coolest thing, and this is going to take up a little bit of my time, but you were a 3-time state champ in Illinois, 152-1. I'm not like bringing up, obviously, I mean, dude, you've moved on. I know you have, but this is cool to me because I hope viewers see this part about that one loss, is because that one loss is one of the coolest things that, like, in the wrestling community is untold, because who you lost to, first off. So Mikey Benefiel, right? Mikey Benefiel was like one of the top recruits in the country.
Yeah, he was number 1, 4-time state champ, Fargo champ, everything champ. He was a stud.
And you had the opportunity. You probably, I'm not trying to call out whoever may have won that year in 07, maybe when that was. But you probably could have bumped up or maybe cut down.
I stayed at 71. That was kind of the match, that was
right.
I was chasing it for sure.
But anyone else in their right mind would have maybe not in their right mind, right? But anyone else that's looking at it going, hey man, for me as a kid growing up, I got to see Surtis and Escobedo. Well, Escobedo dropped 1 out of state, but I got to see Surtis and Blake Maurer. I got to see some guys that, rattled off 4, but like Surtis was super cool because he was like 160-0.
Yeah.
Right. And just untouched. But to lay it on the line like that is it's unheard of, man, because even nowadays coaching high school wrestling, you still see kids that will vacate, right? Or they'll call it. And that's pretty neat, man. But on top of that, you went out to Fargo once as a cadet and twice as a junior, I believe, an All-American.
Yep.
And then to top it off, you stayed in state, went to the U of I, University of Illinois, and wrestled for Coach Heff, and captured 3 All-American, 3 podium finishes, correct?
Correct.
For Coach. And does this still stand true? Are you still 10th on the wins list, 110-43?
Yep.
Still staying steady at number 10?
Yeah.
That's what you got to love. first of all, I guess I'll just kind of tell our listeners how I came across Jordan Blanton. But Jordan Blanton, big impact in my life for the time I was around him. It was kind of crazy. For those that don't know, Jordan Blanton is the first cousin to Old Dominion All-American Jack Deco. Jack was also a two-time Illinois state champ, I believe. Right? Is that correct?
Three-time
Or is he a
finalist, one-time champ.
three-time finalist, one-time champ. And so during my time, and this is kind of all going to get wrapped in, come full circle, but you were helping out at the Virginia Beach Regional Training Center at Old Dominion.
Yep.
And I got to spend a lot of time around you. And I mean, alongside, I mean, all the wrestling minds, when you look back at it now, that we were still kind of kids, right? I mean, and Chris
sure.
McCotty and Jack Deco and Kevin Beasley, and you throw in you and Alex Dolly, I mean, and Steve Martin in that mix. It was that was the most slept on little thing on the East Side, in my opinion, or the East Coast.
It was special. I think about that all the time. That was a heck of an environment for sure.
And it was ran the right way, and I mean, it's a shame on you, Mr. Seelig, if you ever watch my podcast. You even won't, but shame on you. But no, I'm just kidding. That was pretty cool. But that's how I met Jordan. Got to spend a lot of time around Jordan. Even when I moved back to Indiana, I mean, Jordan, we ran a camp. My brother wanted to run a camp at Carmel High School when he was coaching there. He's like, "Hey man, do you have who would you think of?" And I remember the first person I brought down, I was like, "Man, dude, like Blanton, that man." And having you come down for a couple days, and that was a nice little camp you put on. And I know things have changed and gone down crazy paths, and as we all do. But the coolest part about this is when I reached out to you, hadn't talked in a while, but I mean, response was like, "Dude, yeah, heck yeah, like let's do it." And that's the beauty of wrestling and the relationships. But I guess from just starting, and like I was explaining to you a little bit prior to the show about what the Warrior Regional Training Center is, right, and how it's attached with Indiana Tech, and it's ran out of Indiana Tech University, and they have two top 10 men's and women's NAI wrestling programs, and now on top of it, they're the first regional training center and academy in the area of Fort Wayne, and Fort Wayne is really a lot of it's not untapped potential, but it's like I was explaining to you, it's not an Indianapolis or a region area that has just got the endless opportunities of of all the academies and places to train. So and leading on to that, I mean, you're the best guy to talk about because you were participating I can remember this as a kid, at the academy before academies was like overtime.
Yep.
Right. I mean, am I wrong? When you were growing up,
they
were right? Like
they were just like in a league of their own for sure. It was first class. Everything about it. They had the best kids, best coaches. Like that was for real.
And did you ever get the chance? Was Bormet? Did you ever get the chance to train like over there?
Yep, there was a lot of opportunities, like just things like training camps. They'd do clinics and camps and stuff before junior duels, stuff like that. When I was in college, when it was still around, I went back a few times and trained. And everything about that was it was top of the line. I just from being an athlete inside that academy, I saw what a high level it was. Of course, Flow Wrestling was around at that time, so I got to see behind the scenes stuff when they would go in and kind of showcase that program. And it was, I mean, for a person like myself that's I'm super passionate about wrestling. When I was a competitor, I wanted to seek out the best coaches, the best training partners, and they had something that was just so special. So just being around that and getting to experience it made a huge impact on me, and still influences a lot of what I'm trying to build now as a coach and in my community and things like that.
When you were in high school, and I'm not talking bad about because you went to Richmond Burton, correct? Right,
Correct.
with Jet, you guys were both so Richmond Burton High School. I'm not saying it's obviously, I mean, it's produced great athletes and
Yep.
wrestlers. I mean,
Yep.
it's a great school, but
Yep.
there wasn't the Montini or the the big the Sandberg, I know Sandberg, those big schools that go on runs in the cities. I mean, it wasn't that, right?
No,
But
it wasn't anything like
so
that.
over time, but like were there other places that you like went and trained at like while you were in high school or
Yeah, so I mean, I was a mat rat, and this is kind of a cool story because uh, maybe to the untrained eye, or for lack of a better term, to somebody that was maybe lazy, or at least lazy in their approach and didn't want to get creative, uh, there was no opportunity to train year round, off season, especially with high level coaches. Um, so I grew up, and I live now in Richmond. I live in Spring Grove, but Richmond and Spring Grove go to the same high school, Richmond Burton, and we had an IKWF club that produced a lot of great wrestlers. Guys like Clay Guida, who's a 20-fight veteran in the UFC, wrestled in my kids' club,
wow.
and a bunch of other guys that were really tough. They were really skilled, but maybe didn't accomplish anything at a super high level in high school or as time went on. When I was in 7th grade, there was 9 kids on the varsity team, on the entire high school wrestling team, and I think like 4 or 5 of them quit before regionals because they didn't like the coach. And you know how high schoolers are. They when things are going a certain way and the culture is a certain way, that kind of stuff can happen. And I remember
the easy way is to quit, right? The easy way is out.
It is, and they didn't know any better. I mean, maybe the coach, it was a tough situation or whatever, but I know a lot of those guys now, and I bet if they could go back in time, they wouldn't have quit. They would have just stuck it out and done it for themselves or whatever. But I remember being in 7th grade at that time. My neighbor was he was a Division I baseball player, and he was a pretty sought after recruit when we were in high school. And he was getting not recruited, but through the baseball scene, the Catholic schools were reaching out, and he was doing shadow days, and he was doing all this stuff. So I was close to that proximity. I'm like, I'm going to a Catholic school. Right. Come on, mom and dad. Like, I want to do this. They're like, no, you're not doing it. You're not doing it.
Right.
That happens. 8th grade, they by the grace of God, really, we got a wrestling coach at my high school. He was only there for 1 year. He was a 2-time All-American heavyweight for Lehigh, and he came in and he exposed me to freestyle. Really, I'd heard about it. I've been to a couple practices, but I hadn't really done it. And he won Fargo as a cadet. He was a heavyweight. And he told me one day when we were practicing, I was in 8th grade, I would just go up to the high school. It's probably illegal, but I would just go up to the high school and wrestle every day. And he's like, you're way better than I was when I was your age. And he was 6th at the 2000 Olympic trials. So this is like 2003. He was 6th at the 2000 trials.
So he's fresh off competing too.
Yeah, he still had it. Like, he was in shape. He was a big, strong dude. And Bill Clausen was his name. And he said that to me. And I'll never forget that, because I thought I was good. I wanted to be good. I was hungry. But that was somebody of actual pedigree that gave me a big compliment. And I'm like, okay, you think I could be good? I'm training in this room. I'll follow you. I'll train here. I'm not going to any other high school, any whatever. And
right.
And so that was my 8th grade year. 8th grade ends, and during that summer, he gets a different job in a different career path, actually, for a school for the blind, and that was what he was passionate about. He wanted to work with blind youth and help them kind of make their way in the world, and he left. And the assistant coach at the time was my high school coach, my cousin Jack's high school coach. I believe he coached maybe 5 or 6 state champions, and I think he was head coach for about 10 years or so, 8 to 10 years. Had about 5 or 6 champs. I think he was in the Grand March every year. Yeah, I had a finalist pretty much every year. Accomplished like phenomenal things. One day he'll be in the Hall of Fame for coaching. And
but just to stop you, I don't mean to interrupt you, but think about if you go to Catholic school. Think about if Jack, because Jack's going to follow you at this point. Think about, right? I mean, like, I'm not saying this man's not a great coach, but just think about how quick those tides could have turned.
Oh man, I mean,
like going from I just interrupted you before you were talking about, hey, he's about to be a Hall of Famer, but
yeah,
I mean, man, if he doesn't have, because you guys I'm not saying you guys are the reason for those state champs that followed after you, but kind of are, because you started that fire.
It set into motion things that, and I was a kid at the time. So I remember like when I'm a freshman in high school, I'm walking down the hallway and one of my friends, classmates that we were walking down the hallway, and he's like, "Are you still undefeated?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like 12-0 at the time or something. I ended up winning 111 matches in a row, but I was like 12-0 at the time. And as a freshman, and in my mind, I'm a little surprised too. I knew I was good. I won state in 8th grade in IKWF, the Illinois Kids, Wrestling Federation, and I had success. I knew I was going to be good, but I didn't know how good I was going to be. I was just hungry and wanted to work hard and wanted to do as best as I could do and push myself as hard as I could every day. So he says something like that, like, "Oh, are you still undefeated?" And at the time, I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And I think I thought to myself, like, I wonder how long I'm going to stay undefeated for. I had a big win early in that season that proved it was ranked in the top 3 in the big class in AA in Illinois. And I knew I was good enough to place. I knew I could beat good kids. So I was constantly kind of proving what I felt in my heart and in my stomach, like, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm doing the right things, but don't let off the gas. Keep pushing, keep going. And from that time, that was 2004, 2005 wrestling season. We had, I don't know, maybe 20 kids that year. I was constantly recruiting my friends and stuff, a bunch of guys into wrestling. By the time I graduated, we probably had 30 or 40 kids. We were 14 weight classes deep. 2 years after I graduated, the most we'd ever had was 3 state qualifiers when I was there. My cousin Jackie's class, they had 10 state qualifiers, 1 regionals, made the state tournament, dual team state, like from literally less than 5 kids for the regional tournament in like 2001, 2002 to the state tournament in 2010, really in the same decade. And there's still the effects. When I moved back here, when I came back about a year and a half ago now, there was still the aftershocks of what I kind of started and trailblazed and what my cousin and his teammates were able to accomplish. It left a lasting impact, and people still know wrestling in our town, and they still want to support it, and they still want to see great wrestlers. And now the coach that's there now who's coached state champions, coached 2 state champions in the last couple of years, and the up-and-comers, the youth and the middle schoolers, and now the freshman class that's there right now is, in my opinion, primed to do exactly kind of what I had already done. And I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, but I see so many parallels and so many similarities now, and it fires me up. I get excited because it takes the right people coming together, doing the right things, doing them the right way consistently. You can accomplish anything. You can turn something out of nothing, and I feel like I'm living proof of that. Because I'm just another kid from small town Illinois. I had mentors, I had guys that I looked up to growing up, but I was able to push the envelope a little bit further. And then the people that are going to come after me are going to push that envelope even further. So as time goes by, it's going to keep growing and keep building.
Yeah, that's just like kind of, it is kind of unheard of in today's world, and I'm guilty of it, man, because I moved. right? And when
Yep.
I was in, I mean, I pulled that trigger, right? And I look back about, I don't, I didn't have, I'm not Jordan Blanton, right? But like, I mean, like, but you look at it nowadays, and as a coach, I didn't realize as a kid when I did it, I was like, man, not very many people do this. But as a coach, man, you see it, I'm sure too. Like, I mean, it happens a lot
Oh, yeah.
and you always kind of wonder, like, hey, man, like, what if you would have stayed? What would you have brought out of other people, and what, like, all this, and it always, I hate what ifs, right? It only counts in what, horseshoes and hand grenades, right?
That's
Well,
right. Yeah.
and so it's like, if, but like, just to think of what not saying that it couldn't be what Richmond Burton is now, but like it's sorry to break it to you, it probably ain't going to be what it is now
Yep.
if that doesn't start. And now what even makes it cooler is that it's still going on, right? Because like, I've been to Richmond, right? I had the joy
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
spending time up there and training up there and seeing the old stomping grounds. And
Yeah.
you're right, but it's a close knit community. But those people stay together, and like you were saying, the right people come together at the right time and do it the right way. I mean, it's endless. And now you're adding training opportunities more like, you're just talking about, like, you were just looking for places to wrestle, occasionally going into overtime.
So
But then
that's
now
kind of what
there's
I want to hit back on. So I wanted to find whatever I could find, and at that young age, before I had my driver's license, when I was a freshman in high school, one of my eighth grade year, kid that was a senior, graduated, went to Harper College, which is a perennial power in JUCO. Yep. He went to Harper, and then he ended up transferring. He was a top 10 heavyweight for the University of Wisconsin Whitewater in his college career. Well, he lived in my town, and he was commuting to Harper going to school. So he would pick me up. I'd get out of class. He'd pick me up, and I'd go and just work out with Harper's wrestling team. And at that time, Clay Guido was just kind of he wasn't in the UFC yet, but he was entering into that. He was fighting bigger promotions, getting bigger fights, having success. He wrestled there when he was in high school. When he was in college as well. So there was a bunch of post grads. I guess I was like a pre grad. I was a high schooler, but I would go in there, and there was a bunch of tough kids, small school Illinois kids from Florida, large school, big school kids from Illinois. Great training opportunity for me during their preseason. Their coaches were awesome. They welcomed me with open arms. There was some rules. They wouldn't let me live wrestle some days, but then if one coach wasn't there, I'd break the rules. It was kind of that game, and they allowed for it to happen, and it was a great opportunity for me. That same couple people, they would also go down to Gilbert Grappling, which was in Tinley Park, which overtime was far. That's Naperville from where I'm at. And I'm at the Wisconsin border, so I'm way up north. Naperville's far, but Tinley Park's even farther. That's south suburbs. I would go there, and they'd have like Friday night open mats and stuff like that. And I'd go there, and I'd get to wrestle with guys that were professional fighters, high schoolers, college guys that were coming back. I mean, it was just whatever I could do. And that was where I learned the term mat rat, because somebody called me a mat rat. Anybody that just wants to find a mat, go work out, whatever. Made a huge impact on me to the point where I was like, this stuff's great, but we're traveling so far. Let's do it in our town. So one of my buddies had a pole barn. They had wrestling mats. We found a way to get wrestling mats. I don't know what it was, but we had like one full-size mat, like maybe a 30 by 30 or a 40 by 40, whatever. You could fit about 10 or 12 people in there. We'd get college wrestlers. We'd get college coaches. Izzy came up. Israel Martinez ran workouts there. I mean, we would do anything and everything. Some days it would be me and our 112-pounder at the time. That was the high school weight, 112. It was at their house. Some days we'd have college athletes there, and everything in between. And we'd just put in work. We'd try and get better every day, whatever it was. And that was like something, and that sparked my interest. We made T-shirts. It was called the Rocket Wrestling Club. And on the back said, a time will come when the winter will ask, what did you do all summer? That's what it said on the, you know, that was the mindset. It was just putting in the work. And so that's what we did. When I got my driver's license, then it was kind of the best of both worlds. I could travel and we could do stuff back here. And so I trained under Ed Giese at Addison Trail High School. He ran the Dave Schultz Wrestling Club. He was one of the guys that was actually out at the Foxcatcher Farm when Dave Schultz was murdered. I mean, he was there, lived on the estate, trained there, traveled all overseas. I mean, lived this awesome life. And I went there and I did a lot of training for freestyle. I'd go to Oak Park River Forest. I'd work out there with Coach Powell, and got to see that. And then during that time, my sophomore year of high school is where I met Israel Martinez, and that was where I kind of dove into the Izzy Style School of Wrestling, and that's where my wrestling really took off. When I got connected with him, got to learn from him, that took it to a whole nother level.
I didn't know. I guess this is something that I really didn't know, and this is sorry, Izzy, I'm not calling you old, but it's older than I thought, because I thought it was more around me and Jack's time is when he started.
So this is kind of the cool story is when I started training with Izzy, he was driving like a 1994 beat up Astro van that didn't have air conditioning. You'd get done with practice, I'd jump in his car. If I was staying with him for the weekend or whatever, if we were traveling to tournaments, we'd leave practice in his car. The windows be fog up. It'd be like still cold out, but you'd have to crack the window. Otherwise you couldn't see out of the windshield. I mean, and it was me, Tony Ramos, Vince Ramos, Colton Rashi, Mark Stenberg. I mean, there was like 5 to 10 guys that were solid, and then a bunch of like Montini guys and a couple other guys. The practice room was tough. We trained super, super hard. But Izzy style wrestling was not what it was even a couple of years later, and then especially what it is today. So it was around. I was one of the first guys in the gym. I was introduced to him through the Ramos family, Vince and Tony, at Freestyle State my sophomore year. And the first day I went to practice there, I knew that was where I wanted to train. There was really no, with all due respect to overtime or whatever, I was kind of weighing out. Am I going to drive to Naperville? What's going to happen? I met Izzy.
You're trying to find your home.
Yeah, and then that was in the books. I was an Izzy style guy after that.
That's so funny story about Izzy. So he's about the same age as my oldest brother. And Israel Martinez used to have bleach blonde hair in high school. And Kyle wrestled him the first round of Fargo. Drew went to him first round of Fargo. That was a delightful experience for Kyle. Sure. When Izzy was back in his prime. Yeah. But no, that's pretty cool. So like, I mean, it's a very kind of similar situation of kind of how it started in Indianapolis when, Central Indiana Academy of Wrestling started rolling. It doesn't start, like you said, it's the right people, the right time, that have the right goal in mind. That are doing it the right way. And so like, even if it was just 5 hammers and 7 other guys that wanted to get better, but to see where it's at now, because I went back to Izzy style with Jack, when we went home and trained with him, and dude, I mean, I think I can say it now because they're not going to say anything, but like going group of 3 with Blaze Butler, Jack Deco, and, whoever else was in there at the time. And you're just kind of like, dude, and these guys, and like to think about it, they're all Americans, right? Like, they've all got all these accolades and all these conference titles, but like on top of that, they were training together in high school, at the same place, and like they're coming back to the same place. That speaks to what Izzy's done with think with, love him, like him, hate him. I mean, I think I love the guy, and I don't know him personally as a level, but like from what I've seen of him and follow of him, I mean, he's to me is a guy that is he does it the right way. And, he's a tough cat. I like it. I love his tenacity. I love the intensity.
He's a motivating guy. He brings a lot out of his wrestlers, and he runs it how he's going to run it, and he don't take. It's not oh, how do you want to do it? This is how we're going to do it, and we're going to do it to this level, and you're either going to like it and stay, or if you want to go, there's the door, and he don't really can't think of the phrase, but he don't really sacrifice what he's trying to do or whatever for anybody's feelings or for whatever.
Yeah, he doesn't cater. He doesn't cater to.
Correct.
Right. This is the plan. This plan's proven it works, and this is the path we're going to take because it's proven.
So being around that was huge influence. He's still a big mentor of mine, a guy that personally I look up to. I have a great relationship with him. I've learned so much from him. He's helped me in so many different ways. He was like when I was starting my club. He's the first person I called, and I just told him, I'm like, this is something I wanted to do back in my hometown. I'm excited for it. But I want you to know, in some ways, maybe that makes us competitors now or whatever. But I think you're the man. I respect everything you've ever done for me. Where there's opportunity for us to have. Where we have, common goals or whatever, and we can work together, great. When we're competing against each other and we're competitors, great. It's just going to make the sport better. It's going to make us better, whatever. The first thing he says, he's like, you want to be Izzy Style North? I'm like, I appreciate it,
We'll make a branch. We'll open a Blanton branch.
Yeah.
No, so that's cool, man. That's pretty special just to see what he's done and what I always talk about with Wade and Thomas Pompey, who's the head coach of Indiana Tech, and Paul Rodemaker, who's the head coach of the women's program. And like the goal of the RTC is not just Indiana Tech, right? I mean, it's the community, like the Fort Wayne area, like to rise, right? To bring it to another level. And not everybody's going to come and train. But like you're saying, like, you and Jack and a couple other buddies going to train with Izzy and then coming back to Richmond, Burton. Like I call it the trickle down effect, right?
Yeah.
It's like Reaganomics for wrestling, right? So you go train and you bust your butt and go to these camps, whether it's Jordan or J-Rob, or you go find a guy like Izzy and train with him year round, and you come back to it's going to help your room, right? I think that's just a fact that isn't really talked about enough, though. I mean, those guys that go out and train and work, and it's kind of like they're giving back, unknowingly, and unbeknownst to them, but they're giving these kids a lot of knowledge that they've picked up. Well, I think that's big.
It's iron sharpens iron. And what happens is when somebody, and this is human nature, and I wanted to make this point about Izzy because I think a lot of people, when Izzy was starting Izzy Style, they're like, oh, why are you starting a wrestling club? Overtime's right down the road. Why is anybody going to go to Izzy Style when they could go to Overtime? But he created something out of nothing because he had a dream, he had a vision, and he put in the work that it took. So when you see a kid from Richmond, like myself, that was trying to commit himself to the sport to get as good as you can get. And I came back into my room. I was tougher on my partners. I was tougher leading the conditioning. I was tougher, whatever. It made me a better leader. I could lead by example. I could be vocal, whatever the situation required. But it elevated everybody's level. My dad said this one time, and I always use it. He's like, if you're right here, you can get right here. And if you're there, you can get right there, and so on and so forth. And I believe in that. If my partners were right here, I knew they can get to right here. Just a little bit of work, a little bit of training, a little bit of whatever. And when they started figuring that out, and this is in wrestling, but this is true in life. If they start figuring out how to finish a single leg or defend a single leg or ride or mat return or whatever it was, they started figuring that out. Now all of a sudden, maybe they could beat that guy that they haven't been able to beat, or they're widening the gap against a certain opponent or a certain level of opponents, whatever it is, and it's motivating. You want more of it when people are having success and they're on a roll. It's easy to continue to improve, to put in the work. When everybody, and I think this has a lot to do with culture, but when everybody's having a down attitude, they're not enjoying themselves, they're not happy, or they're not this, or they're not that. Well, that's going to trickle down, or that's going to spread like wildfire as well. So that iron sharpens iron. When people are elevating themselves, when people are pushing themselves to get better and better, that's contagious. People are going to catch on to that. And I've seen that in so many different, especially in the wrestling world, but in life. I mean, I'm enthusiastic. I'm enthralled and always looking for that type of stuff in life, in my career, in my friendships, my relationships, in the sport of wrestling. I love success. I want to find success. I want to find successful people. I want to figure out what they're doing, and I want to try and mimic that, Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, I think, is a Picasso quote. He said, "Good artists copy, but great artists steal," and that's Picasso, so
right.
It's like he's stealing his artwork from certain people, or his techniques or his whatever, with Flow Wrestling, with Rudis Plus, with all these different, with just Instagram and everything. I'm sending technique videos and slow motivational quotes and all kinds of stuff every day to my wrestlers. Like, think like this. Look what this guy's doing. You can do that. That kind of.
It's incredible.
It is. It really is.
It goes hand in hand too. I think like you were talking about, like it's great that the sports also found a way through this social, this era of this strict social media of like,
yep.
I mean, it's everywhere though. Like you're talking about, like I like my For You page on like my Instagram. It's either golf or wrestling, right?
Yes,
because
yes.
Right, but it's all like old school Sergey Beloglazov
Yep.
clips, or old school Schultz clips, and I don't know. I mean, the sport, I think, is to me and to you, is there's no better vehicle for self-improvement.
100%.
I steal that quote. My brother uses that a lot, right? But I think sport teaches us a lot of things and one thing my brother, I'll never forget this, and this isn't about me, this is about having you on, but I'll never forget, I lost at the semi-state for this, my junior year again. And he came down, he told me, he goes, "I love you." He said, "But no one feels sorry for you." Right? And like you were talking about how the sorrow or feeling bad or today sucks, how that spreads just as well as,
yep.
Hey, get your butt up. We've got a 5-mile run. I know it's Sunday morning, but we're going to go trudge this out, and then we're going to go hand fight, and then we're going to go home. Right? The difference between that of not saying, I know my mom felt sorry for me. I know my dad felt sick, and I know Wade at the end of the day probably felt bad for me.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, that's not the answer, right? Is to sit around and it's no one feels sorry for you, so don't feel sorry for yourself, right? Go get, there's another one that don't be, I had a boss early on in my career that said, don't be sorry, just be better.
Yep.
Right? I don't want you to apologize. I get it. We all make mistakes. But right, just be better. Like, don't say sorry. It's fine. I get it. Just be better. And that attitude, man, is like you said, and I love how you keep saying, and you've said it a few times, but not just in wrestling, but in life.
Yep.
This goes hand in hand, and we've both seen it, right? I mean, you as working in your industry with your, you coming back home and working in the company with your father, and it's dude, it makes life so much easier because you've been through the trenches, and because you've taken but not because you've been through the trenches like you've had a terrible life, but you've put yourself there and found a way to dig. dig yourself out of it.
One thing, I love the Dan Gable quote, once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy.
Right.
I've kind of evolved that a little bit because I think easy is probably not the right word. It's my brother-in-law, who's also the co-owner and other coach at the Relentless Training Center, Ryan Prater, Illinois high school state champ,
monster, yeah,
Division III champ for Elmhurst College. Was my teammate at Illinois before he transferred to Elmhurst.
He wrestled for Mary and Eddie, right?
Yep, wrestled for Steve. I mean, the who's who of guys that he's beat and pinned, and Kellen Russell, he pinned. Montel Marion, he pinned. Just like, I mean, the list goes on and on.
He's got a hit list.
He's got a hit list. And one thing he always says, like at the end of every practice, is like, it's not going to be easy. What you want, what you're after, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be so tough, but you can do it. And one of my coaches, from when I was growing up, when I was going to the Big Ten tournament my freshman year, I had Jake Herbert in my bracket. I wrestled him in the semifinals. He was Hodge Trophy winner, world silver medalist, 6th year senior. I was a true freshman. He's like, you got everything it takes, but it's going to take everything you got, And that, it didn't work out in that match, but that stuck with me too, because we can do it. When I say we, I mean anybody. You can do it. You're here, you can get to here, and so on and so forth. Some people, it might take a little longer. It might take, and I know tons of people like this that are late bloomers, but you might not win a state title in high school. You might not win a state title in grade school or youth or middle school or whatever. But if you stay at it, it's going to tip. You're going to figure it out, and you're going to have that success. And that is with anything. So with Dan Gable, it says, once you've wrestled, everything else is easy. I don't necessarily know if that's the perfect saying, but once you've wrestled, you know that if you don't quit and you keep fighting, you can do anything you put your mind to. And that's something I subscribe to today. It's something I really want to leave with my wrestlers and with the people that I work with and manage. Like, that's how I want them to feel. If they're willing, because there's going to be just all types of hurdles. It's not a smooth ride. The journey is going to be bumpy. It's going to be tough. But if you stay focused on your goals, if you know what you're doing, why you're doing it, you can fight through that. You could persevere, and you're going to have success. And that's just the bottom line. It's like a law, I guess. It's a fact.
That is straight. Yeah, that's straight facts, right? Straight cash, homie. That's what that is.
That's right.
That is, man, that's awesome. Gives me chills, man. I'm about to go hit a mini marathon after this run.
That's right. I'm ready
to go hop on the treadmill, man.
Yeah.
But we've only got about, I think about 7 minutes or so left. So I do want to touch on one thing, man. And I know you spent time at the Illini RTC. I know you spent time wrestling for Titan Mercury. I know you spent time at Virginia Beach RTC. But really what I think aligns with what's going on right now in Fort Wayne, Indiana with the Warrior RTC, with, really kind of being that first place to supplement your training. You're doing the same thing right now, right?
Yep.
Relentless Training Center, first year, right?
Yep.
You, Ryan Prater, Kyle Dooley,
Yep.
and Tony Delago, right? And
yep.
Delago was a hammer for Illinois, for
yep.
University of Illinois. And so I guess you're in an area that is not highly populated with training opportunities to supplement, right? Everyone has a home academy, everyone or has a home team and has a high school. But I guess just talk about what your goal is, because I think your goals align very similar with what Warrior RTC stands for and wants to do for the community and for the schools and the community around them.
Yes. So I guess we're just starting our second year. We started in October of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. There was no wrestling season. That was basically why we started it. The state of Illinois postponed the IHSA season. So we did a preseason, and then we just kind of ran it all the way up until the season started, and have just kept at it. I know for a fact that this area, the type of kids, the types of families, the blue collar, tough, hardworking culture of this area is the perfect recipe to create good wrestlers. They have family support. They're tough. They're hardworking people. No excuses, and they just need to be around it. They need to be exposed to it, and they'll figure it out. I came up here. There's some clubs around that do year-round training and stuff like that, but I felt like there was a demand, like Izzy style, like overtime, like whatever. I felt very strongly that those clubs are world class. And I felt like with my brother-in-law and myself, and then with just our network of coaches and stuff that live around here, I felt like if we all pooled our resources and time and dedicated to building a wrestling program, a wrestling club, a training center, that there's a kid like Daniel Dennis who grew up 15 minutes from me. Jimmy Kennedy, 2014 World Team member, grew up 10 minutes from me. Tony Ramos grew up 10 minutes from me, NCAA champ, multiple-time World Team member. There's so many. And I've seen all these guys, except for probably Jimmy, I've seen all these guys lose at local tournaments when we were growing up. Jimmy was a freak, but everybody else, there was some kid from Harvard or some kid from Woodstock or some kid from Johnsburg that was beating these kids. Now, as time went by, some kids took a different path. They jumped levels. They got better and better. Some kids didn't. But there was nothing here where guys can go year round or just in season or a couple months out of season or whatever and get high level training with coaches that had a plan basically from youth all the way up through high school into college and beyond. And when we started this, what we set out to do was to bring in wrestlers that just they want to work hard and develop them into wrestlers that can wrestle hard with a high pace, great conditioning, and really, really sound technique in all three positions, top, bottom, neutral. We've done that. We started in a basement with 6 kids, and I think now we're over 100 wrestlers that have come in within 1 year, Right now, we're doing high school only during the season. All the other kids go to their kids' clubs and stuff.
Right. It's a little different. So for those in Indiana, we can't train with other. So it's different. In Illinois, you can train with other wrestlers from other schools. Indiana, sorry, or Lane. You can't train intertwined.
And we train 1 day a week. For 2 hours right now on Sundays, but we got 30 high schoolers from a pretty big radius that come in from all over. We have state champions, we have state placers, and we have guys that are knocking on the door.
Right.
The goal is to bring kids that just want to get better, they want to put themselves in an environment where they can improve, to open those doors for them, to work on the technical, the physical, the mental, all of that stuff, in our room. And we focus on it. We talk about it every day. And the immediate impact that it's had has been incredible. And then, when I feel like the long-term impact is we're just scratching the surface. This is the top of the first inning. But I really feel like there's world and Olympic champions in this area that maybe don't even know what wrestling is yet, maybe haven't stepped on the mat, or in the case we're in right now, there's kids that are in our club that have the foundation that if they keep their mind sharp and they surround themselves with the right people and they focus on the right things, they can do whatever they can accomplish whatever they want to accomplish.
Yeah, man, that's pretty spot on, and I know Wade will watch that and get goosebumps just hearing what you said because those align pretty well. But hey, man, I know you've got things to do. You're a working man. You came straight home. Still got the Blantons shirt on. So I know you
Yep.
came straight home and came straight here. And I just want to let you know on behalf of everyone, I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day, because this is how, we grow the sport, man. This is important, and this is how we continue to open ears and eyes to what wrestling can do. And so, Jordan, thank you, man. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your guidance and your leadership over the years. And, I can't wait for everyone to see this. So thank you.
I appreciate you having me, man. Definitely looking to get out to the Warrior RTC. I want to see what you guys are doing. I'd love to bring some of our guys, and let's do this again. I always enjoy talking to you, talking wrestling. It's good to catch up, and I just appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Jordan. We'll definitely arrange for that. So, hey, for all our viewers, we will see you next month for episode 3 of Warrior Mat Talk. Thank you.